California and was really yearning, for a sense of connection to the Asian American community. And so for me, it's full circle from the time of being at the very first National Asian American Theater Conference in Los Angeles, which is my hometown, to now being able to welcome all of you to my current hometown here in Philadelphia and to be able to host this event. So thank you again for being part of it. I think there are a few other acknowledgments that I want to do. I'm trying to decide the order. I think what I would like to do next is actually invite my fellow Kata board members to step onto stage and to be able to be acknowledged and to introduce themselves. Oh, I don't think we need chairs. No chairs. Yeah, no chairs.
We'll just wave.
All right. All right. Should we do it in order of geography or? We're going to do geography. Okay. All right. Well, then how about I'll just go.
Hi, I'm Andrea Saff, Artistic Director of Art to Action, Inc.
Hello, I'm Jorge Ortol. I'm the Executive Director of my Theater Company in New York City.
Hi, I'm Tim Dang. I'm the Producing Artistic Director of East West Players in Los Angeles.
Tisa Chang, Pan-Asian Repertory Theater in New York City, probably the oldest one in this this room, and maybe around a lot of theaters. No, me personally, Tim, me. So I just say East West is the oldest theater, and Pan-Asian's second oldest. But I'm saying I am. Therefore. I'm really happy to be here to see and to know all of you.
Thank you, Tisa. I was almost going to say that we could line up in order of age, but I already had a chance to introduce myself.
I'm Leilani Chan. I'm with Theater Productions in Los Angeles.
I'm Rick Shiomi. I'm representing all the independent artists here.
Hi, I'm Meena Natarajan, and I'm the Executive and Literary Director of Pangea World Theater in Minneapolis.
I'm Randy Reyes. I'm the Artistic Director of Mu Performing Arts, otherwise known as Rick Shiomi's Theater Company.
I'm Rick Shiomi's godson. I'm Victor Mayog. That's not a joke, actually. It's a truth. I'm Victor Mayog, Artistic Director of 2G Second Generation in New York, one of the newest members on the board.
Yeah, we're missing one person, and that is Mia Katikbak. She is the Producing Artistic Director of NATCO, National Asian American Theater Company. She's doing a show currently, so she'll be here at 1 o'clock in the morning after her show, and head back to New York City at 3 o'clock because she's doing a show. But she says hello, and you'll get to see her tomorrow morning as well. And she is the chair of the board, yes.
Thank you, and also very quickly, all right, board members are welcome to sit back down. I just wanted to acknowledge two other individuals, Jeff Mousseau, who is the general manager of Kata. He said he did not want to come on stage, but maybe he'll raise his hand and let us wave. Jeff Mousseau, and then also Juliet Lee, who is our local Confest coordinator this year. Is she out there? She might still be at registration. But without the two of them, it would have been impossible for this event to be able to happen. So thank you both to Jeff and to Juliet, and I hope that if you haven't had a chance to meet them or any of our board members, that you'll be able to find opportunities to connect over the course of the next 2.5 days. I wanted to acknowledge some of the funders who have made this gathering possible. Generous support from the Ford Foundation, through the Institute of International Education, the James Irvine Foundation, the National Performance Network, Stanlin is in the house, the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, and we'll hear from Sharon Battles from the Pennsylvania Council in just a few moments, I think, if she's in the house. Yes. And the Wincoat Foundation here in Philadelphia. So thank you to those funders, and then also thank you to many of our local host committee members who are listed in the program, and then also our co-hosts, the venues that are partnering with us, including Interact Theater Company, Seth Rosen, Fringe Arts, whose gorgeous space we're in tonight, and also Underground Arts, where the open mic will be held tomorrow night. So thank you to those folks. And Sharon, are you here? Yes? Okay. And so I wanted to invite Sharon Battles onto stage. She's someone who has been, she's a program officer with the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, and among her other duties, runs a very special program that's called Preserving Diverse Cultures. And it's her program that first supported Asian Arts Initiative as we were becoming an independent nonprofit organization. And it's also the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts that has been an incredible supporter of us bringing the Confest to Philadelphia and to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'd like to welcome Sharon for a few brief comments.
Welcome, everyone. This is wonderful. My performance days are long gone. But I wanted to say, on behalf of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, we're delighted to welcome the 2014 National Consortium of Asian American Theaters and Artists Conference and Festival to Pennsylvania. The richness and diversity of the many different Asian cultures represented in Pennsylvania by your attendees make the Commonwealth a more vibrant, interesting, and global community, in keeping with your conference theme, home, here, there, where. You have found a home in Philadelphia, which is in turn home to your host, Asian Arts Initiative, some of your hosts, Asian Americans United, and Katsi Villafone, who you have probably seen on Def Comedy Jam. She's really made a name for herself, and we were very privileged to have her perform with us. We took her to California when we went, and she performed there, so we claim her. We appreciate the honor of hosting Kata here in Pennsylvania, and thank Gail Issa for having the genius and tenacity, because she's been talking about this for at least 3 years, a reality. Gail is no stranger to remarkable foresight, starting with the founding of the Asian Arts Initiative to receiving the 2005 Governor's Awards for a Creative Community, to being the first Asian American to serve as a council member on our governing board. PCA provides support. Yes, she does. She deserves a huge round of applause. Support from many of the organizations here, including all of the hosts. As Marcus Garvey said, a people without the knowledge of their past, history, origin, and culture is a tree without roots. 2 decades ago, the Asian arts community was comprised of community arts organizations offering folk and traditional programs. Today, there are organizations that span the spectrum, from folk and traditional to presentation and exhibition of contemporary arts. And the recognition and representation of those contemporary Asian artists is owed to the hard work of Gail Issa and some of the original members of Tiger, probably about 20-some years ago, and the Asian Arts Initiative, and the founders of the Asian Americans United. And to all of those artists and administrators, we say thank you. And I really want to close by saying Pennsylvania is rightly proud of the growth and development of its Asian arts community. We look forward to continuing the work begun during this conference and continued in this historic conference. Finally, to our friends and colleagues, all of you from around the world, we wish everyone a successful conference and festival. Sincerely, Philip Horn, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's attending another duty, many meetings in DC, but he does send his support, his appreciation, and his applause for finally bringing this to Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Sharon. So a few housekeeping types of announcements before we get folks up on their feet. We are very pleased to announce that that HowlRound TV is live streaming tonight's plenary, as well as the plenary and breakout sessions throughout the conference. These sessions will also be available for viewing after the Confest is over on HowlRound, and the link is bit.ly/the-NAATF. It's also listed in your program if you want to look for it that way. So please participate in that way. Also, a couple of several additional things I wanted to highlight. One of the other partner productions that myself and Asian Arts Initiative have been supporting is happening tonight and also tomorrow night over at the Painted Bride Art Center. And it's a performance of Dennis Kim's Tree City Legends. So if you are able to fit it into your schedule, we're providing complimentary tickets to all Confest attendees. And we hope that you'll be able to appreciate what is really a beautiful story of four brothers sort of raising themselves in an immigrant family and coping with both loss and love. And so I hope that folks will have a chance to check that out. There's more information at the registration table if you need it, and also in your programs. Some of you may have noticed that we are trying to make lunch available during the conference days for those of you especially who are going to be rushing in between different kinds of events. The lunch is available for purchase. And I can assure you that it's going to be delicious and sourced from a lot of amazing Philadelphia Asian American restaurants. So I hope that if you are interested that you'll take time tonight to actually pre-order so that we sort of know how much food to have available. I want to encourage everyone to join us again tomorrow night for the Kata Open Mic. That will start at 10 p.m., as I mentioned, over at Underground Arts in Asian Arts Initiative's neighborhood. Reggie Kabiko, who many of you are familiar with, will be hosting that and is still open for sign-ups and also other features who want to volunteer yourselves. So we hope that we'll see you there. There will be there is a cash bar at Underground Arts as well. So it should be a really fun late-night venue. And then on Saturday, if you're able to stick around, after the plenary and breakout sessions, Asian Arts Initiative will be hosting a happy hour wine reception at 6:30, and then also a closing night party starting at 9 p.m. So I invite you to be part of that as well as everything now and in between, and look forward to seeing you there. Finally, for tonight, I'm definitely excited about the plenary conversation, both for the introductions of everyone in the room, and then also a mini panel that we have planned, really exploring the themes of community engagement and activism, as well as discussing multidisciplinary work, which is so much of what, for me and for Asian Arts Initiative, really drives our own programming and our own vision. And so look forward to that conversation tonight, being able to help shape the conversations for the rest of the conference and also helping us really chart the future for our field. And with that, I would like to invite Andrea Asaf to begin the facilitation of the next section.
Thank you, Gail. Hey, Gail, is there a hashtag? What's the hashtag, y'all? Hashtag NAATF. So if you're social media, no.
Oh, where is it? THENAATF.
Okay, so that's our hashtag if you're doing social media. So I am going to we are going to introduce it's something that's happening. We already started today, and it's going to be happening throughout the Confest, is that there is a devised theater workshop happening that I'm facilitating with this amazing team of artists who are going to introduce themselves to you in just a second. And our job is to engage with you and reflect back and play and keep a sense of interactivity and conversation going throughout the conference. So you'll see us popping up in a few different ways, and we are going to co-facilitate this interactive opening. And first, you're going to meet them. Come on out, team. Ensemble. And they're going to introduce themselves to you in just 1 second. And they get 9 seconds, 9 seconds each to introduce themselves. Okay, which end are we starting on? Yeah? Great. Wait for the clock. Okay, so, ready, go. And how you identify? Oh, you weren't there for that. Okay, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. KT, wait. Go. 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 Okay. Go. And go. Awesome. Go. Good. Okay. Yay! Give it up for our team. Okay. All right. Oh, wait. I have to do it. Can you time for me?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yes. And go.
Andrea Saf, Lebanese American queer, theater artist, spoken word artist, director, writer. I make shit happen. That's basically it. All right. So please so give it up for our devised theater team one more time, our ensemble. And now we would like to invite you all onto the stage. Come on down. Please leave your belongings at your seat. Join us out here. Don't be shy. Woo-hoo! Find your peeps. This is a great moment to find your peeps. Oh, that's right. So just kind of find your way into a circle so everyone can see. I noticed that there was a center point. Should we call this? Yes. Okay. Okay, great. So how many people have been to a Kata conference or festival before? Make some noise. Awesome. How many people, this is your first one? Oh, awesome. Okay. So some of you have maybe done some of these before, but because we are different every time, we are going to do some similar things that you may remember from previous conferences. And so the first one we're gonna do is about this notion of home. And we're gonna ask you to place yourself in the space. If this orange-green spike mark were Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States on the continent of North America, place yourself in relation to this spot in terms of where you were born. Y'all got to figure that out. Where's north? North. Okay, great. And go.
Yeah, so feel free to, of course, introduce yourselves to your the people in your spot. Let's see. So is this our
New York?
New York.
Okay. And
Philly. New Jersey. There's Philly here.
Philly there. Okay. And
DC.
Florida.
Puerto Rico.
India.
India. Okay. So moving east.
The Philippines.
Australia.
Grenada.
Awesome.
Tanzania.
New Orleans.
Phoenix.
Iowa. Los Angeles.
There's a big LA group right there.
San Francisco.
Seattle.
The duo in Seattle.
Toronto, Canada.
Did I miss somebody in the
Oh, Chongqing, China.
Seoul, Korea.
Manila, Philippines.
Yeah, so we're connected. It's too bad we can't do a globe, right? So.
All right, great. So now, the next question, everyone. Again, if that spike mark is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where is home now? Where is home now? We're gonna animate it.
Look at that. That's crazy.
So let's get a few more points on that here. And what is this mean? Excuse me. So let's get a sense for a few of the points on the map here.
Manhattan.
London, England.
Is this the Philly group here? Yeah, okay, so Philly, and just a few more. I won't get everyone this time, but
Pasadena.
okay. And
Minnesota.
Okay.
All right, so great. So now we're going to animate this journey. Go back to your born place, your starting place. And when I say go, you're going to find your way to the place that home is now and use your body to explore or say something about what that journey was like and how you ended up in wherever home is now. Okay, so you're moving from point A to point B, and how you move is an expression of something about that journey, that path, okay? So everybody focus, quiet, ready, go. All right, so let's just throw out into this space a couple of, like a word or a thought about that journey. Anyone, just call out something. 110 freeway. More? Dancing across the country and back. Road trip. Adventure. Improvising. What's that? Dreams. Longest. Couple more? Huh? Parents. Show to show. Word. Delayed. All right, nice. Give yourselves a hand, everybody. So moving to the next thing, now we're going to reconfigure ourselves totally. I'm going to ask you to do I'm going to create some categories that, and knowing that some of you may inhabit more than one. And so what you will have to figure out is what your relationship is to these different categories. Okay, totally self-identify. One of them, let's see, let's put upstage over there.
Up here is if you identify as an artist, okay? And then if you're in that corner where Tracy is, that is educator, if you are an educator. And over there, where you see Viet and Justin, those are activists and organizers, and advocates. So please move to where you primarily identify as in the current moment. Artists, educators, downright. And if you don't identify as anything, you could stay in the middle. So organizers, activists, and advocates down left, educators down right, artists up center.
And so if you hold multiple or have different relationships to these different things, go ahead and figure out what that looks like in your body, how you move between these spaces. Go ahead and animate this. Like, what is that relationship between these identifiers? You can use words, you can use sound, your body, whatever. And pause. All right. So tell us a little bit. Let's just popcorn out like a few thoughts or things that came up for you as that was happening. Observations or your own choices.
Fluid.
Can't seem to settle.
Multiple hats.
Slasher.
Fun. Tired.
Stretched.
Inevitable.
Reaching.
By default.
Bridging.
Wave.
Excellent. So we're going to move into the next section of this. What's this? The next section. So now we are going to line up by years of experience that you identify professionally in your creative field. So I'm going to leave that to you to decide what professional means and what creative field means. We're going to do 1 year or less. If you're new to the arts and this is your first time here, that will be KT over here. That's 1 year, and we're going to go all the way to 50 or plus. 50 or plus, and that's where Tracy is. So somewhere on the spectrum, the middle will be 25 years. Line yourself where you professionally identify with how many years of experience you have in your creative field.
See all of your beautiful bodies. Let's push this way. Let's stretch out this line a little bit. All right. Look at this amazing group. Look at this wealth of experience over here. Hello. What? So let's speak to this. What? I know. I want to do a photo shoot for Vanity Fair right now. This is amazing. So, please tell us, how many years would you say you've been in the arts?
More than 40.
More than 40.
39.
39.
34.
34.
32.
Wow, we're looking at 30 plus years over on this side. Give them a round of applause. I'm just awed by the number of young people standing on this side of the room. It's amazing because it gives us such hope and confidence for the future of this theater scene, yeah? How many years?
16. 20.
20.
20.
Over here. All the way over back here.
5.
2. 2! I got so excited my name tag fell off. And right now we're plop in the middle. Gail, how many years?
21.
21. Awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Great. So I actually got my start at the Asian Arts Initiative 16 years ago. That's really cool. In a workshop with Dan Kwong. Yes. So now I want everyone to think about what is your vision for what we can achieve through API theater and performance in your lifetime. Think about the biggest possible picture of that and a word or a phrase that embodies part of that for you. And take a moment, reflect, and as you reflect, yes, thank you for asking. What is your vision? What's a word or a phrase that embodies part of your vision of what we can achieve through API theater and performance in your lifetime?
And as you contemplate that, please move about the space. Yeah, and we're using API Asian American as inclusive, and so it is expansive and expanding. And as you're moving around, contemplate what your word or phrase is, and once you have figured out what it is, come into a circle facing inwards. Come into a circle facing inwards as we began. And if you're still contemplating, that's still awesome. But I'm going to go around and hear your word or phrase.
For us, by us, about us, and near us.
And if you resonate with that, please make some type of gesture that is visible as you are able.
Oh, can you come back to me?
Brown stories at the center for all.
Peace.
Theaters of color as regional theaters.
No longer silent.
Network.
To always have a seat at the table.
More money.
Asians on the West End, Asians on Broadway. Thank you.
Those are some beautiful visions, and we're going to come back to this question later in our time together before this weekend is over. Please give yourselves a hand. And super quick, we've had a request if we can do a group photo, but this is going to have to be really quick because it wasn't in the plan. So right before we transition into the plenary, group photo. So everybody go over there and let's see if we can do this real quick because you all are so beautiful. We are all so beautiful. Get close. Don't be shy. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Are we ready? Yes, we definitely need the kata board in the photo. And Jeff? All right, who's taking the photo? Yeah, you have to. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, are we? Okay, thank you, everyone. Now find your way back to your seat and give yourselves a hand. That was awesome.
Thank you very much.
And we'll need chairs on stage, please. So everyone, please give a hand to our Defies Theater Ensemble. You will be seeing them again. And, Gail, any words, or should I just do it? I guess go. Okay, so I'd like to invite our plenary panel up to join us. Come on down and take a seat. I can't see you out there. Come on down. And we're going to go straight into this in just a moment, as soon as we've got everybody. Okay, great. So I have the great honor and pleasure of being able to moderate a really awesome conversation that we're about to have. And I want to emphasize really that it is a conversation and that the folks up here are here to help us start the conversation. And then we are going to have some time to all talk and build together. And that this is the beginning, hopefully, of some conversations that will continue throughout our time together. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask our plenary folks to introduce themselves. And, wait, I have to flip pages. Ta-da. Okay. And the way they're going to introduce themselves is very briefly to say their name, something about, to introduce themselves, their work, what is their connection to kata, and something that they see emerging or trending in the field. And that's going to begin our conversation. So we're going to hear from each plenary panelist, and then we're going to hear them have a conversation about what they hear each other say, and then we're all going to have a conversation building on that together. And I think we actually choose in order. Well, for introductions, we'll just go down the line, and then is that cool? Yeah. So introduce yourself, your work, your connection to Kata, and something that you see emerging or trending in the field.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Tracy Kato Kiriyama, and my relationship to Kata, I performed with Edge of the World in 2007 in New York, and then with Pull Project in 2011, and now I'm here with the Artist Exchange. I'm a multi-platform artist, which leads to sort of a fluid artistic identity, but a much compartmentalized experience. So I work in the fields of theater, in-devised as well as more traditional theater. I write for publication and short form poetry and stage. But then I also work with movement and music and different kinds of performance. Organizations that I'm with, names like Tuesday Night Project, Generations of War, and with a new Nikkei LGBTQ gathering called Okaeri, which means welcome home. And something that I wanted to touch on, two things. I'm starting to see at a better pace, I think, as a person who works with an aerial artist as a stage partner, my partner Kennedy, we're starting to see very slowly an emergence of more acceptance for aerial/circus arts within theater narrative. But it also is where I think we're a long ways away, but I think we're starting to see more openings for that in different presenters. And then I think in terms of like the longer run, when I think about a lot of my friends who identified principally as actors in the 90s, now many have emerged to working in different platforms and working in different disciplines and finding passion as writers and producers. So I feel like I see a lot more self-determined pathways and path making.
Hi, I'm Sumi Kim, and I am an actor and performing artist based in New York City. I am here to present my project Change, which is based on and inspired by the life of Kathy Change, who was a Philly-based performance artist and activist who self-immolated on the campus of UPenn in 1996. This project is I'm a resident artist at Here Art Center, which is a theater in New York City, and they support artists who are creating hybrid work. And it's also part of the NPN Creation Fund and residency, and so I'm being presented by Kata as well as Asian Arts Initiative through the NPN. And so I'm super excited to be here, and this is my third time with the National Asian American Theater Festival. The first time was in 2007, and presented a show called Legendary, which was based on Bruce Lee. The second one was in 2011 in LA. We did an adaptation of Teresa Hak Kyung Cha's Dictate, which was called Dictate, Bells Fall, Appeal to Sky. And my work is very collaborative. I collaborate very closely with a director as well as designers and musicians, and work in a multidisciplinary platform. So some of the waves of the trends that I see, I can only speak from my own experience as an artist in residence at Here Art Center, is that I see a lot of people reaching out and branching beyond their main discipline of, say, music or playwriting or choreography. They're like creating performance work that kind of blurs boundaries to make work that is devised and expands beyond genre. Another thing that I'm seeing in the Asian American community is like the strengthening in voice through the communities, primarily in New York City, through organizations like APAC and Asian American, help me, Victor, Coalition. Arts Coalition. You didn't help me. Yes, yeah. So anyway, there's a sort of like non-silencing of voices through the Asian American artist community, and that's something that I'm seeing that's very proactive and exciting.
Thanks. So my name is Meena Natarajan, and I am from Pangea World Theater in Minneapolis. And my connection with Kata is I'm one of the founding board members, correct, of Kata. Seems like a long time ago. But it really, and the work that we do in Pangea is multidisciplinary. It's also, we do all kinds of work. It spans the spectrum. We do community engaged work and also work that crosses disciplines, as well as present and produce plays as well, and work, performance art. So it really kind of runs the whole spectrum. The kinds of, I thought I would stick with the Midwest, just in terms of like the trends that I see, because I feel like there's so much arts funding, and part of it is also arts funding. So I'm actually looking at how can we look at work that is also created because arts funding's there in the place. But a lot of creative placemaking funding is coming to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so I'm just seeing a lot of work that goes outside of the theater, that actually percolates into the streets, that goes into stores, that actually mobile work that happens on the streets as well. A lot of vitalization, the conversation of economic revitalization, and so the whole creative placemaking thing. And for me, and I'd love to speak about the concerns of that, but that's not right now. But I do see that trending, and a lot of great work going on, which I love. And also connected with that work, we're actually having conversations around things like equity. So really, I feel like I've been part of so many challenging conversations around equity that are wonderful. And in Minneapolis, at least, I see a lot of coalitions of people of color coming together and actually talking about equity issues around funding, around the work that's presented, around work that's seen, around who presents what and who does what. So I'd love to be able to talk more about that.
Hi, my name is Snehal Desai, and I actually got my job through Kata 2 years ago, or 3 years ago at the first conference. I attended the TCG conference in LA, and through that met Tim Dang, the artistic producing director at East West Players. And I also was in the opening plenary there, but in a weird mask costume, so you may not recognize me. So this time I'm unmasked, thankfully. And I am a theater director and playwright primarily. As a director, I love doing site-specific work, and as I also am a solo performer because I am the worst scene partner in the world for most people. At East West, I am now the literary manager and artistic associate, and I'm interested in three things, one of which Meena mentioned, which is event-based theater or site-specific theater, and kind of theater that's going the trend of, say, what's happening with the bookstores, so that people aren't interested in large houses. They're not interested in Barnes and Nobles and Borders. They're interested in specific experiences, individual experiences that are smaller. So I'm interested in a dialogue about that. I'm interested in this new model of theater of consensus building, and a shout out to Seema Saweko at Pasadena about that, and finding audiences where there's a mutual offering of what do you have to offer us and vice versa. And interested in those models in the theater. And then the third thing that I'm interested in a dialogue tonight about is, this idea of that the more people you put on stage, the bigger your audience. The more you base your theater in your community, the more interaction you have with those members, and the wider the base. And the question of, if you do that, do you compromise artistic quality? And so I think that's something that's at a kind of a tipping point, and so I'm interested in questions about that. Thank you. And I am a Spark leader with TCG this year. Thank you, Amelia.
Awesome. So that was fantastic. Lots of juicy things. I'm going to pull out a couple of threads. So interdisciplinarity, self-determination of the work, coalition building, conversations around cultural equity, interactivity as a way of making work and also as a way of engaging. So now you all get to have a conversation for, really, maybe we'll do this quick. Maybe we'll just do like 6 minutes of hearing you respond to each other, and then we'll open it up so that we end on time and we get to really hear what folks are thinking. So anything you want to respond to in each other's comments. And I'm going to push a little bit on this because we got some good juicy stuff around aesthetics and process, and I want to push a little bit to also talk about what is emerging or trending in terms of socially engaged or community engaged work or politically engaged work. So go ahead, y'all. Say that question nice and loud. Oh, okay. Yeah. Here.
I think maybe it'll help to speak about what the consensus building model is that you're talking about. I do think that's a really good starting place.
Great. I'll talk about it briefly, but I'm not an expert, so just correct me if I'm off. It's a model of kind of finding shared common ground between groups. So if you're doing a theater piece about, say, origami, case in point, finding groups that in the community that are working in origami and doing that and going out and soliciting their advice and connecting them so that they, and finding out what their needs are as a community, and then as a theater trying to see if you can help them. And as a theater, obviously, your needs are wanting expertise about whatever you're doing a show about, but also audiences and finding a base and finding new audiences. And so it's about kind of that, finding those intersections and those Venn diagrams and seeing how you can both help each other out versus, I just need this from you, you know what I mean? And trying to build relationships that last over time in those ways.
Well, I'd love to hear, can we already put it out to the audience?
Well, not yet. We're going to listen to you all for a few minutes. Let me just say that it's interesting to me how similar patterns of ways of working get called different things at different points in time, right? So there's this framing that's around like consensus building as an artistic process, but then you might also call that community-based work or community-engaged process. Go ahead,
And
Nina.
I think the vocabulary is co-opted from community build.
I think it's built from community organizing, actually. I think that's where she's directly, Seema at least, has taken it from, if I understand it correctly. And I mean, I guess I'm interested in work that gets created with community because we do so much community-based work. And what does that look like? And how do you build consensus when you're actually creating with other people in the community? And I feel like recently we've been engaged in a whole process about like what really makes a difference. So like the difference that makes a difference in a sense, but from human system dynamics. And really looking at that and saying, what is it that we absolutely have to have in this community-based process? So if it's like work, around social justice, or it's around, like art has to be a part of this, or something that community organizing has to be a part of every single meeting that we do, whether it's with the organizing committee or whether it's with. So I feel like I'm really kind of interested in those processes that also have social justice as a piece of the whole, So because if we're talking about social justice work, we've got to practice in a way that includes that methodology.
And I also want to just tease out of what you just said. You said human systems dynamics, right? So that's another kind of interdisciplinarity that we might be seeing more of. One is aesthetic, but also literally collaborations between disciplines, between arts disciplines and outside the arts, right? And I would say that that's something that I see trending or emerging or getting stronger in the field as well. Well, I mean, projects that are specifically collaborations between science and art, for example, or technology and art, or I'm right now, I never in my life thought I would be doing this, working with the military, and like with veterans, collaborations between social service organizations and the arts. So, in terms of how socially engaged work happens, it seems like there's more interdisciplinarity maybe emerging there, as well as aesthetic experiments in across disciplines.
I think it's worth it also to kind of go back to your point about, does that compromise the art? When, to me, it makes so much sense that it increases, or it can increase the excellence in the process and the production itself. So you use the origami example, and like I would think that bringing someone who is an expert into that process and having some actual work, I'm not sure what you actually did in that process, but to have them engage with the actors on stage who are, in any way relating to paper, right? And their character with that paper and that intention and that experience makes so much sense.
Yeah, no, I agree in terms of the research and the that it definitely deepens the experience. I think it's a question of, it's about the actor, actually. So is it a local actor that you know what I mean, that you're casting in your production, or are you casting someone from another city who is, had a very, I think that's where it's a question of the artistic level. But definitely anything that you can do to deepen the experience for the audience members and connect them, I think is wonderful. But I think a lot of us talk about or aspire to, everyone wants to work at regional theaters, and I think regional theaters often are the most out of touch with their communities in terms of who's there and who's working. And so I think it's a question, I think that's what 90% of the companies here in this room are very community-based and driven, and they find their artists there. But it's funny because everyone wants to work at these other institutions that aren't as connected to the community.
Well, I guess just coming from the perspective of someone who is like an independent performing artist and who produces their own work, what I've found through subject matter is that there are different ways to engage within your community and have conversations and reach communities that you may not have been otherwise engaged in previously. So for me, through like the Hemispheric Institute, because of my project with Kathy Change, I have been able to hold artist talks and have conversations, and there's also broader conversations about like Asian American women and mental illness, or like performance and suicide and political activism, and what is performance art and what is activism and how do they merge. And so there's been like a lot of amazing experiences on my end personally through the doing of this art making process that has broadened my my scope of what I ever foresaw myself doing as an actor. So
I guess that just reminds me of the fact that I spoke about coalitions before, but I also feel like one of the things that I'm really interested in is how do you create collaborations or create coalitions between communities of color, right? And so that would be something that I would love to ask a question, like how many people here work with like two communities of color, or really also the other community that comes to mind for me is immigrant communities, like first generation immigrant communities. And how does that work? Like what does that work look like aesthetically, right? And so I'm interested in these questions as well.
And actually, as we were preparing for the panel earlier, we had a conversation about perhaps a question or challenge for the field is how do we move beyond this disconnect between this gap, I would say, this like chasm between artists who are first generation or working in immigrant communities and really are working in those communities, and the national arts infrastructure, that, the networks, the funding systems, the organizations, the national organizations, and how do we bridge that gap? How do we create more access and more collaboration and more exchange, perhaps? So now I see you have the mic, and I'm going to open it up. If you would like to pose another question or challenge as we open it up, yeah?
Great. I would love to just echo actually Mina's comment and open it up. It's a question about, it's tied hand in hand to this, of an Asian American artistic aesthetic and what that is and where it's going. I think we're very interested in that question, particularly from a place of, I think a lot of what has defined Asian American art in the last 2-3 decades is about being first generation, right? So it's about first generation struggles. And I think as we move forward in time and there's greater cultural diversity in this country, I think that's what we're interested in also, is this idea of cultural intersectionality. And as artists, we're all interested now in putting the world that we see on stage, but often what we're still seeing is the singular play about one experience. And so is there anything that we can do to support that or help that, or is, what is the aesthetic, or where is it going, and how can institutions help support artists?
So I'm going to open it up, and we have about 10 minutes to dialogue, and I really want to encourage us to not make this a standard Q&A, but to just widen the circle of the conversation. So folks can respond to each other. You can respond to stuff you've heard. You can share something that's percolating for you. And can we get more house light? Is that possible? So, because it's really hard to see folks up here. And I see a hand up there already. And maybe can someone else on the devised theater team help run mics? That would be awesome.
I just wanted to shout out to the people who are not on the coast, and also especially to folks in the South, because I think those of us who are in the South and the Midwest, geography necessitates Asian Americans working with other people of color, and that's something that I've found has been kind of a lucky coincidence. And so I almost all of my work is done with Latinos and people of African descent, and I'm excited to hear more about other folks who find that that's the case, even if you're on the coast. So
I'm headed over there, and so one of the devised theater team, please help me run mics. Can I have a volunteer, please?
I have something here. I think in the work that we do with as diverse of a communities that we are, that under the umbrella of Asian American, which is a huge, in just the Twin Cities, there are 40 different ethnic, under Asian American, there's 40 different cultures under that, specifically in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. So to me, there's a huge issue in terms of engaging a community based on a project. And how do you sustain that? How do you get other communities not to be, if you're Hmong, you're interested in this Hmong play. If you're Vietnamese community, you're interested in this Vietnamese community. But how do you get them to be interested in the Asian American work that we're doing, that what we share together? I think that to me is the key, and I worry that this is the same thing that the other bigger regional theaters do, is when they have a black play, they engage the black community. They have an Asian play, they get engaged the Asian community. Suddenly they care about you and they're giving you free tickets, and then in the rest of their season, they're not there anymore. And that's the kind of work that I want to avoid, that, oh, because I'm doing a Vietnamese play right now, I'm engaging this community, but how do I keep them engaged for my whole season? Because I'm telling stories that aren't told, because I'm telling stories about the Asian American experience.
I'm not answering Randy, but firstly I want to thank you all, because I love hearing the input from newer artists, younger artists, and I do, when you talk about community arts and collaborative arts and this whole new wave of devising theater or creating theater, I do think that we have to look back and think a little bit about some of the parameters that are recognized. So I would love to, because you're asking a lot of questions, and one of them, Andrea, you talked about is the chasm, for instance, in terms of funding or recognizability. So I just want you to be sure, because to not forget and to keep wrapped up in your creative process, that there are things like training and excellence and standards of standards of excellence that I think that perhaps help to shape and define where you're going. So I wanted personally just to really say that loud and clear, because I think that is sometimes what is missing. You talk, Snail, you are so eloquent and articulate. I love hearing you. This guy isn't he, is amazing. But but we are all very, very concerned about the direction of what defines Asian American theater? Where are we going? Who is participating? Who is drawing? Where are the demarcations, and why? You know, and Pangaea, you do so much work with the Gail, you do so much work with community arts. I just want to say that let's not forget some of the parameters that we need, or criteria, so that we can absolutely, really, really achieve what you're doing.
So we've got two people on the docket, but I want to give the panelists a chance to respond to some of these questions as well. Anybody?
Yeah, I guess, and in response to that, I really would like to say that I am interested in figuring out what does it mean to really have multiple aesthetics in the room, like that is affected by multiple ways, because this is just the Western aesthetic is just one thing that we see, and many of us, especially as new generation immigrants, come from countries in which we have long artistic practices. So how does that get included into? I mean, I'm actually asking another question. I think training it's a mixed bag, right? And so how can we? Part of what we're doing really to, and I'm not. I guess I am giving a plug for the institute that Pangea and Art to Action are creating, which is that we're really looking at the next generation of theater directors and people of color and women directors especially, of which there's been a lack in the field, and saying, okay, what do we do? How do we train the new generation, and how can we actually use the expertise of people like, say, Nobuko, or people like, the people from everywhere, all over the country, and how can we define that new aesthetic? And also really look at, say, Native American work and see how does that influence us? What's the aesthetic like? Is it different? What's the storytelling like? What's the storytelling structure like? What's form like? What's content like? And so how's that going to change how we see as theater in the United States, or Asian American theater in the United States?
So I just want to pick up on something that was earlier about self-determination, right? Self-determining our own work, our own standards of excellence, our own understanding of what techniques and we are actually valuing, and how we learn from each other in that. We've got one up there, and then here, so we've got three.
Testing, okay. Hey, my name's Ratna Owen. I'm actually from the Southeast Atlanta, College Park, where we don't have a public system of transportation that got taken away from us. And most of the Asian stuff is up north in Doraville, past Atlanta, where I can't access those stuff. And the API orgs are very electoral. They're based on gaining rights to citizenship and things like that. And arts is encouraged already within our communities, but we're talking about what's next? What's the next step in Asian American art? I'm not even there yet. How do I enter that space, How do I get there? It's where's it at? I don't know how to navigate it. So yeah, just want to connect with y'all. So just want to say hi to you as well. Yeah, thanks. Anyone else from the South? Oh, just us? From the South? Oh, yay, woo!
I will say to that, the one thing that helps us in this day and age is technology to break down the distance barrier, if nothing else. And so you shouldn't ever have to feel isolated in that way if you can't physically get somewhere, that we should all be able to reach you and you should be able to reach us otherwise. And so much of the work is created that way. And so it's about finding those networks and those connections and keeping that dialogue going. Building this network, exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to address briefly the generation. You say first generation, second generation, and the forward generations. I think the immigrant generation is probably more interested in the preservation of the culture. The second generation, and those going forward, that's most of the people in the room, I think are interested in integrating into the cultural quilt of the nation that they have adopted. So I think, for playwrights in particular, as a playwright-driven company, my always tries to think outside the box in terms of why do playwrights today, the young playwrights in their 20s, 30s, 40s, have to write about first-generation blues? I mean, I think we have to go beyond that now and write about whatever we want to write about, whether it's about teenagers in outer space or about the microfinance situation or about biking cross-country through the United States with white people. I think we need to go beyond thinking that we have to write about Asian Americans. We don't. I think we have to liberate ourselves from that thinking, and if we want to really integrate into the cultural quilt of this nation, that's for the second and third and fourth generations going forward.
Yeah. And just I want to follow up on exactly that and Randy's comment. I think it's a little bit about what we have to do is find a way about it's about easy marketing versus smarter marketing, and what we have to do is to fight selling our families as the Vietnamese drama or the Korean family drama and the drama about a medical family. You know what I mean? I think we have to dig deeper because no play is about one thing, and what we're finding is the superficial way to often market those stories or reach an audience versus finding the deeper ways that are deeper themes that play is talking about. Because I think when we go to see Death of a Salesman, we're not like, oh, that's about a white family, you know, or that we're going because it's about a family that we can all connect to in a different way. And I think that a lot of our work has been marginalized or pigeonholed because it has been in that way self-segregated. And it's almost, how do we find a different way of telling our stories and spinning?
Okay, so we're winding down on time. We got 2 more people on the docket, and then I want to close out with the panel. I'm going to pose a question. Do we want to integrate? Is that the goal? I'm not sure that all of us have the same answer to that question. I'm getting there. You're second. Here we go.
Hi, Lenny Daniels. I founded the Philadelphia Black Theater Festival in 2000. It lasted until 2006. Of course, when it was time for someone else to step up, people started going, no, Lenny, you still do it. So I took the break. But here's the thing, you know, we celebrated works by African-American writers that our younger artists didn't know anything about. You happened to mention Death of a Salesman. It was just done by an all-black cast here, directed by Ozzie Jones, and got wonderful reviews. But again, most of those artists had never heard of it. So we find ourselves, the people who have been doing this for a long time, who actually went to school and got a degree in it, no matter how much it doesn't service us. You know, we came out thinking that we could pass things along, and that's what we're trying to do. The only reason that I'm here tonight is because I happened to call Sharon and tell her that I just proposed to my group that we're going to do The Sound of Music with an all-black cast because it's a story. And I think too often we let race separate us from the story. Years and years ago, the first time I had ever even looked at Fiddler on the Roof, I was hired by an all-white suburban school to direct it for them. So you had one black woman, a whole group of young white people and their parents, and me bringing in Jewish actresses to talk about the experience. Isn't that what this is supposed to be? It's about educating everybody and letting them see that we're not that different. Color of skin means nothing if you're deaf, if you're blind, if you're poor. It doesn't matter. So the whole point of all of this is to not have to say to my younger students, okay, I know you like this music, I know you love this story, but you're never going to be cast in it professionally. I'm sure that that's the same issue that Asian Americans have, that Mexicans have, that black people have. I'm not saying that the Caucasian has taken over. I'm saying that we've allowed it to matter what color of skin is more important than the people whose story we're supposed to tell.
All right, we got 2 more, and then I know we got to wrap. So Jonathan and then Emily.
Yes, I think that my name is Jonathan Mann. I'm a theatre director from London, and I've been working a lot in China and Hong Kong. And I think that there's something about the fact that people are missing the fact that Americans are seen as sexy internationally. And that would include Asian Americans, I'd say. And there's something about American dominant culture with the music, African American, the movies, etc., etc. Come on, guys, let's tap into this American sexiness that the world buys. And, you know, there's the Asian bit, but actually there's the American bit as well. Let's remind everyone. That's the first point. My second point is that we are very, very international, and all of us are connected with people in Asia or Europe, whatever. We talk to our family around the world all the time. And I think there's something about that energy. I've sort of joined the dots as a second generation going back to China, dealing with the root culture. And actually there's lots of Asian Americans there, actually, of all descent, business-wise. So I think there's something about, you know, tapping into that energy and strength, you know, those inspirations. You looked at Europe. I went to the Medea piece today. There's the Worcester Group. Aesthetic has influenced Asian American work. Let's try and find what is the next influence. You know, who would have thought black slave culture would dominate the whole of the UK and the world now? And, you know, and I think that looking forward, you know, Obama talked about the pivot to the East. And I think, you know, there's a way to sort of exploit that, you know. the African Americans, certainly African American work has completely pervaded the West End last year, and on Broadway currently. And I'm thinking that there's pivots to East and West that I think people can maximize and look into.
All right, one more.
Hi, thanks. I strongly believe that we are stronger together than we are apart, and that's a huge plus. But I also want to remind us that Asian America, that phrase is an artificial construct,
yes,
right? That we don't have a lot of necessarily organic affinities, that growing up, my father had stories in the 20s about lynchings of Filipinos and segregation, so I feel a close affinity to the African American community. After 333 years of Catholic Spanish colonialism, I am, as much as I deny that, I am Catholic. That is in my DNA, and I have a closer affinity to Latino communities. I would just encourage us to expand and blast out the definition and not get so doctrinaire about Asian American and what that definition is, especially because in these days where there are people who are mixed race and are not necessarily choosing to identify in this way. We have to allow people, meet them where they are, rather than saying this is the way that we must define ourselves. I'll stop there.
All right, that was an amazing conversation. Please give a hand to the plenary and to everyone who spoke. And I know there are a lot more thoughts and ideas and conversations to be had, so please continue this conversation. It is 7:50, and I'm handing it over to Gail. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again to all of you for participating, Andrea for facilitating and allowing me to not be on stage. I think that right now we're actually going to be clear. I'm looking at Jeff because he's going to tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, so there's a short break so we want to be able to clear the theater for about 10 minutes so that we can set the stage for the performance showcase at 8 o'clock, right? And we invite you out to the bar in the restaurant. If you haven't already had a chance to get a drink, the bar is open over there. And for those of you who are not staying for the performance showcase, I hope that we will see you tomorrow morning bright and early at 9:30 a.m. over at Asian Arts Initiative, where we'll be meeting for